Good evening, my friends. Welcome to the Black Diamond Call for Monday, October 9th. John Lavinia here with you as I am each week for another thrilling episode of everyone's favorite call for the week, except Glenn. I heard Glenn right at the beginning. His favorite call is Friday morning inside Digital Altitude, which of course we all enjoyed as well. But we have a big week here. I just got an announcement, so I know that those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that every day I am announcing our Marketing Mastery event coming up this weekend, October 14th and 15th in sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. Well, guess what? Tickets are just about sold out. In fact, they may in fact be sold out, but we just had an announcement that went out via email, which you hopefully received, and that is for people who are just getting started. They were not able to get a ticket. Perhaps you've got a situation that's somehow going to prevent you from being there with us live. We are having a live stream, yes, live streaming video for broadcasting and for your viewing pleasure. You can actually go right to the link that you'll find in your email that will give you access to that. And you don't need to get with your sponsor or anything. I did check on that. Is there any tracking that needs to be done? No, just show up, grab that live stream link, and there's a small fee. It's going to cost Digital Altitude a pretty penny to get that all streamed out to you, but they're going to go ahead and take care of that. You can just go ahead and order a live stream ticket right now. Do that, and then of course, whether you're there live in person or on the live stream, I will be seeing you live from stage on the 14th and 15th. So I'm excited about that. Tonight, of course, though, is our Black Diamond Call, which for those of you who've been around for a while, you know the drill. This call is fun. We have a lot of fun on this call. We do this each week, where we get to hear from top earners in and around our industry and in and around Digital Altitude, people who've made it to the top, people who have, as the name of the call suggests, reached expert status. For those of you who've never skied or snowboarded before, Black Diamond is the status that's given to expert level skiing and snowboarding trails. So not for the faint of heart, but but we are here to share our experience, what we've done to, in some cases, earn millions of dollars, as is the case with my guest speaker tonight, who you've never heard from before here inside the Digital Altitude live call series. So I'm very excited to have him out here, and I'm very excited for those of you who are joining us live. I do see more people joining the call as we speak. And of course, for those of you who hear this on the podcast, be sure to pass this around to your friends, your new team members, and all the people who are not able to join us on the live broadcast. But the rules for the call, as always, are take what you like and leave the rest. See if how these ideas apply into your life and into your business. This is not just a spectator sport, right? This is not just for entertainment, as entertaining as I like to believe I am. And see how these ideas can be used, right? Because they are for use. And of course, if I say anything that offends you, you'll get over it. That's just how we roll. So tonight, we're talking with actually a guy who I've known for well over a decade, and interestingly, because we were just talking about this live event we've got coming up in Vegas, I met this guy at an event, not unlike what we're going to be doing this weekend. And I'm gonna set the table here just a little bit, and then we're going to bring this guy out. And he's one of the greatest speakers too that I've ever worked with or gotten to hear. And because he's got so much content, he didn't just fall off the turnip truck, so to speak. But I remember I was at this event in I think it was Dallas, Texas, and this guy walks in, and his lovely wife, Jessica, as well, and they're kind of like newbies, in this whole business deal that we're doing here, and obviously they're serious enough to show up. And I know many of you are going to be showing up for the first time at any sort of an event like what we're talking about here this weekend. But anyway, this guy did that. He took that action, and he met me and other people who had already reached top earner status in that company. Again, we're going back over a decade, and he introduced himself. I think we wound up having our first cigar together that night because we had a bit of a tradition going on at that point in our careers, where after every event it's the cigar circle time. Maybe we'll resurrect that for Vegas. Any cigar lovers, bring stogies, and we'll make that happen. But I got to know this guy, and I remember at one time we were I think it was another event where we were on a tour bus or something. We were going to some leadership outing. So fast forward now, I don't know, a year or whatever, and this guy had made it right to the top. He had the, I don't know, the laurel placed upon his head, the little crown there. He was one of the top earners, right? He did not separate himself from the top earners, as many people in our industry tend to do, where they think, oh, well, these top earners, they're special. I'm not special. They're special over there, right? That's part of the failure mechanism, by the way. Well, anyway, this guy did not succumb to that. So here he is now teaching and training others and leading large teams and making piles of money. And I remember being on a tour bus with him where we were going to some leadership outing. We've been to quite a few, so I don't remember in particular which one it was. But and I said to him, man, someday, we should do something together. We should you got it, man. You got the talk, you got the walk, and so here I was, kind of like the old sage, although we're the same age. But like I saw something in this guy, and he apparently saw it in himself too. Now since then, yes, we have worked together. He's my business partner in other stuff that we do. We've got thousands and thousands of people that we've been able to work with throughout the world. And while he's not a very vocal character here in the digital altitude community, he's extremely well known throughout the entire industry. And you may have heard his name before as well. It's an easy one to remember. I'm talking about Tony Rush out of Alabama, USA. Tony Rush, how are you, my friend?
Hey, brother. I'm doing great. I was a little confused there, though. The accolades were coming so fast, and I was like, I thought I was speaking tonight. Maybe John booked somebody else for the call. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you know what, man? A lot of people know who you are around here, and a lot of people, interestingly, Tony, just for your own edification, our audience here in the Digital Altitude Live Call Series, a lot of times people have no prior exposure to online business, and in some cases never even attempted entrepreneurship before. So they don't know. It's very fortunate for them they found this and not the 10 million other things they could have been doing right now, wasting their time. So they're here, right? So that's cool. But I would not assume that people know the basic principles. Like when you and I were just cutting our teeth and coming up in the industry, there were things that may have seemed obvious to others who had come before us, but they weren't necessarily to us. And we've had breakthrough after breakthrough. And so I know that there are people here tonight that are going to have a breakthrough with some of the stuff that you're going to share, that got you to the top, and not to just, give you a tongue bath, but my goodness, you've done it. You've done it. And that is, that's what we like to hear about is what, what did you do? And regardless of this company, that company, there are principles upon which you've based your, here I go monologuing again. Let me show up. There are principles, yes, and they're timeless, and they apply directly to this. And you've also had the transition from like traditional network marketing, which again, some people have experienced, some people have no idea what that is. But the efficiency and the effectiveness of digital marketing, give us some of your experience, maybe some background and advice for new members especially.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a bit of a long time coming. You and I have been trying to get our schedule together, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. So thank you very much for the invitation. And I have been looking forward to it because John, as John mentioned, he and I have been close friends for over a decade and business partners in various ventures, even still today. And so he and I have a meeting every Monday morning, and every Monday, you guys should know, he brags on this community. I'm a little sick of hearing it, really, just to be honest. He just brags on you guys so much, and then it was finally like, okay, well, let me come talk to him because I want to meet these incredible people. So you guys are like John's favorite people on the planet. Just in terms of introduction, I guess, and I'll keep this brief because, like John said, I'm in terms of who I strive to be and hopefully succeed to some degree, I'm really just a normal person who had an opportunity to make some powerful decisions along the way and figured a few things out. And I fell down a lot, and I got a lot of bruises, a lot of scrapes, but I learned a lot, and as a result, have been able to achieve some really amazing things. Not bad for a former bookstore clerk from North Carolina. But so if I sort of feel a little bit like anybody who's done well at something, they have an obligation to send the elevator back down. I don't actually ever feel like I'm up on the higher floors, though. I'm still doing, to some degree, quite a lot of, what I was doing when I first got started. I'm just doing it a different way. But just quick snapshot. I grew up in Central North Carolina, pretty much middle-class family. Dad was a Baptist minister. Mom worked at Eveready Battery. Nobody in my family really ever made more than probably $25,000 or $30,000 a year. So when I got out of high school, I was sort of the black sheep of the family. Like everybody was, in that, really happy to be in a steady job. And I learned really quickly that, being told what time to show up and what time I could go to lunch and all that was really not going to work for me. So I was really sort of a lousy employee because my head was always somewhere else. I was always trying to figure out a better way to get where I wanted to go. And anyway, I got into this industry because, well, actually, I'll tell you this. I got into this business because my boss actually said, hey, Tony, come in my office for a minute. And I came in, and he said, hey, listen, would you like to make some extra money? And I said, yes. And he said, well, be at this hotel meeting Thursday night at 7 o'clock. So just a little sidebar, if your boss is pitching you on a home business, that might be a clue that you've chosen the wrong career. But nonetheless, that was how I got involved in network marketing. And this was back, during the time when getting involved in network marketing meant hotel meetings, and making a list of everybody you've known, and just all the stuff that we kind of network marketing sort of known for, at least back in the 80s and 90s. And so where I met John was after a long period of grinding, where I was that guy, bumping into strangers at the frozen food section in Walmart saying, hey, you look like a sharp person. You think about, you keep your options open. You ever think about starting a home business? Or running ads in newspapers and leaving business cards laying all over town. And it worked. I mean, I got some results, but I really struggled. And it wasn't until I started really getting acquainted with direct response marketing methods, the psychology of direct response marketing, and then transitioning, toward technology and automation and leverage. And my breaking point, though, was at a point where I was just so fed up with what I was having to do to make money that I just wasn't happy, even though it was working. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that situation, but, just felt like I was just hooked to the phone all day long and didn't really have a good sense of where my next enrollment was coming from, just kind of didn't really have any certainty about my business. Willing to work hard, but really it felt in a lot of ways like I was just, grinding. And it was around about the time that I met John, actually, that I sort of carved out a few principles for myself and said, I'm going to take ownership of this network marketing thing, and I'm going to shape it to how I want to live my life versus, me shoehorning myself into some 1980s model of chasing friends and family and doing all that. So anyway, the smartest thing I could have ever done. It was just the ability to target people online, to craft a message that was very, very attractive to some people and very, very repulsive to others. If you want a sidebar on that, if anybody's taking notes, good marketing should repel some people as well as attract others. You don't want everybody, So sort of creating a culture that I wanted to work in, like not wanting, to dial the phone. Like I've personally enrolled, not team growth or anything. I've enrolled a little over, I think, 4,600 or 4,700 people in the last few years, and without calling anybody, without three-way calling and doing a lot of the stuff that I used to do to get people in the business. And all of that came from the decision to say, how do I want to live my life? What do I want? How do I want to work and live that'll make me happy, not just make me the money? And so, it was fantastic. And there's a few principles along the way. And John, I don't know if you want to jump in here and we'll dialogue it a little bit, but I do have a couple of thoughts that I'd like to share. I think that would be applicable to anybody. You guys are already kind of at an advantage because so many of the decisions that I made that helped me in my business were decisions that have kind of already been built into the structure here at DA. So you guys kind of have an unfair advantage in the marketplace with all the tools and the really good message that's already sort of built in here. But John, I've just got a couple of bullet points to make. Do you want to jump in here, or you want me to keep talking?
Yeah, sure.
How do you?
Yeah, well, the idea here, and this is perhaps a bit of background for people who are newer in this whole space, and that is right around the time where Michael Forrest was getting his start, and myself and Tony and other people that you may or may not have heard of behind the scenes, people like Jason Howell and Aaron Parkinson, and people who are on the corporate side. We grew up in, I think, what you would call the old school of top-tier direct sales, okay, which is still a big departure from the old school of, like Tony's talking about, network marketing. So network marketing, of course, has been around since the mid-1900s, and house parties and Tupperware, soap and jungle juice and all this. It's all very nice. Not a very good business model, in my opinion. Right? Other people love it. That's fine. But Tony and I, neither of us really made our mark in that space. And there's a lot to be said for the differences, Tony, between what we do in top-tier direct sales as opposed to like a traditional low-ticket MLM consumable sort of a program. But even still, when we go back to the early 2000s or the late 1990s, this whole direct sales model that we've got here with an ascension model, and a lot of people are learning now, especially our newer students, they're just learning about ascension models, like, oh, what's that, and the idea of compression rather than like breakage in compensation plans. So there's a lot of things that are different and advantageous here in our space, and yet the development continued to go on. Like what you're talking about, Tony, and where I think you're going with this, is that you started to apply methods, because we all did, started to apply methods from that old school of, let's say, for example, network marketing. But as we grew as marketers, like when we actually learned what marketing is, which for some reason, network marketing is often bereft of any marketing training, but in any event, we started to learn marketing. And then new methods emerged, right? Things where you don't have to necessarily make a list of, 100 people that, who's your plumber and who's the guy who grooms your dog or something. They're probably not your target audience for this. But yet, if that's your only version of marketing, you're in rough shape, right? And a lot of people tend to be in rough shape. Then they find this, right, which is all about direct response and creating a business that you can actually get paid. Start to really get paid, and not just, you're not just in it for the social aspect of it. And so this is what we've got here. Now, of course, time has gone on, and now we have things where Tony is saying, he didn't want to have to pick up the phone anymore. Back when we got started, there was a whole lot of, you had to wear 10 different hats, right? Here in DA, of course, we have coaches and people who love doing that stuff. And look, for our coaches who may be listening, God bless you all, right? You like doing that stuff, and you're good at it. And because you love it, that's why you're good at it. That's part of it, right? But a lot of times, people, Tony, you remember, we had people who were just petrified of talking to, a prospect or something, or, getting on the phone, and what do I say? Of course, I can't be like Tony or like John. These guys are superstars already. Well, we weren't born that way, right? So there's a lot of internal dialogue that goes through the head of the new marketer that based on principle and based on what we have here now, a lot of people don't have to suffer through a lot of the things that you and I did back in the day. And I know that may sound like, We're the old man telling you about how it was when we had to, trudge through the snow, to school, fighting polar bears off of our notebooks as we went uphill in both directions. So, but yeah, it actually is easier now. But you know what else, Tony? And you asked me to talk, so here I am. But we had a guy on here last week, Aaron Andrews, and he's very much like you and I, family guy, rather sober personality. It's not about, Ferraris and drunken brawls or anything like that. And here's a guy who's talking about the disadvantage of what we have now is that, creating a point of separation, like what's your point of differentiation? What's your unique selling proposition? Because there's so much noise online. So on one hand, yes, marketing is so much more accessible now than it was before. On the other hand, because it's so much more accessible, here's 10 million idiots on demand pitching something on the internet, right? So where do we find that balance? Why do you stand out? When people hear, Tony Rush, do they know, here's somebody who knows something? Maybe you can go in that direction. I don't know, but
yeah. You had me laughing though at the idea. Man, listen, the walking uphill through the snow to get to school. I swear when you and I laugh about this because when you talk about what we had to used to do to make money in network marketing, you do sound like we sound like a couple of 80-year-old guys sitting around talking about what it was like when there was no gasoline engines and the horse and buggy days or something. But seriously, I know that there's a mix of people on the line. I know there's some of you on the line that have probably been around the industry longer than John and I have, and you remember the days of working the business meant, going down to the coffee shop and drawing circles on the back of a napkin, and paying 10 cents a minute for long distance. You couldn't, call across the country or whatever. And then others of you, maybe you've been in the industry for just a matter of months or years, and so you don't, you perceive the industry as being like, well, it's just so complicated, all the technical stuff. But here's the underlying thing. Here's what has not changed. And John's already nailed it. What is the point of differentiation? Like why do people join? Why do people not join? Because if we strip away the conversation about how we used to get leads and how we get leads today, and we strip away the conversation about, well, how did we used to explain the business years ago that I hated, and how do I do it today in a way that I love? Really, everything that we compare about the industry in those ways is all about technology. It's just the means by which we get something done. But the thing that we're getting done, the actual objective hasn't changed. It's still a matter of identifying the ideal prospect, crafting a compelling message, demonstrating, why it's the best decision for them, and then collecting a decision. And, the tools and the techniques and the methods and strategies and tactics that we use to get that done have changed over the years. But there's a handful of things that have not changed. And for me, it was really helpful for me to kind of look at it from that angle, to sort of figure out what is it I want to do? How do I want to live my life? And how can I work the business in a way that's pleasing to me and enjoyable to me? And what that meant was saying, okay, well, let's forget the tech. Let's forget the methods and the strategies. Let's just find out what is it we want to get done and how can we do that in a way that's, very, very profitable. And so the thing that stood out to me was this question that John just asked of what's the point of differentiation? What is it that why do people say yes? Is there a common formula? Is there something that's happening that causes people to say yes? And if you knew what that was and you could replicate those conditions, at least somewhat, everybody's different. We're not, operating in a vacuum here. But if we could at least do more of the things right from one instance to another, then, we ought to see more people getting started. And also find out the things that aren't working, and let's just get rid of those. And so that process led me to a couple of realizations. And one of them that I have kind of figured out, the language that I use to describe this is called the invisible presentation. And this may be an aha moment for a lot of people. people say no to your business. They don't say no to your business for the reasons that they think you do, that you think they do. Can't get my words right. A lot of times we show the business to people, or we have people come through and look at it, and we're explaining something to them, or we're calling them, or following up in some way, or whatever, and we think that the prospect is making a decision based on the information that we provide to them. Things like, hey, here's the cost of Rise, and here you got, Aspire, and here's the price, and here's what's included, and here's our events, and like there's all these things that the prospect learns about through the sales process. And it's here's the company, and here's Michael Force, and here's John Lavinia, and they have events, and here's these products, and the prospect, he gets started or doesn't get started. And we think that the prospect made their decision based on what they learned in that presentation. Now, here's my realization on this. The invisible presentation is a bigger factor than we think it is. And the invisible presentation is huge. Prospects don't say no for the reason we think they do. Because, see, they want financial freedom. And they want time freedom. And they want lifestyle. And yet, I was seeing people in my business, had qualified people looking at my business, and they were not getting started. Why were they not getting started? And the more layers I kept peeling back, I finally arrived at the place where I realized there was something happening that I couldn't see, which is why I call it the invisible presentation. Here's the number one reason why prospects were not getting started in my business, is they couldn't see themselves doing what they saw me having to do to get them in the business. And I'll give you some examples. Lots and lots of long-winded answers. Like somebody's been through a presentation, and I'd give them, hey, let's jump on the phone, and, we'd have a conversation. I'd spend like 30 minutes with them answering questions. And I thought I'd done a good job answering questions, and I had. But the problem was I'd done such a great job answering questions, and I've spent all this time with them, that what I didn't realize I was doing was, in addition to the information I gave them about my opportunity, I was also telling them something else. What? I was telling them, you have to be willing to have 30-minute conversations and be really, really good at answering questions. But I didn't see that. The prospect saw it. See, the prospect is analyzing everything, not just the data, right? So if the prospect sees me dialing the phone, if the prospect sees, if I invite a prospect to come to my house and do a home party, right, and I show them the business, and the business is, hey, all you got to do is push this button. You see this button right here? All you got to do is push this button one time a day, and it spits out money. Boom, 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 one time a day, every day, boom, boom, boom. But if I take, I got to explain all this, and I've got people coming into my house, you got strangers in your house, people you don't know, and the only way to work the business is to create that environment. There are people who will say no to pushing a button. Why? Because they don't want to invite people to their house, which is, believe it or not. So the big aha moment for me was that I was adding in all this extra stuff in an effort to get people to join, and all that stuff that I was adding made the opportunity more cumbersome and heavy, and it looked more complicated, and it looked like, matter of fact, one of the aha moments was when somebody said, hey, you ought to get Tony to come over and do the presentation for your folks. Nobody can do a presentation like Tony. And something about the way they said it really stood out to me, because I thought, that's not a compliment. It is, but it's not. Because if nobody can give a presentation like Tony, then how are these people supposed to be able to do what I do? Or if nobody can answer questions like Tony. And this was what started me down this path of being almost manically religious about using the tools. And you guys are all fortunate because you guys have such great tools. But there's always the tendency. See, I had tools too at that time. At that time, I was using a conference call. And when a prospect had questions after the conference call, we'd invite another leader in the company to pop on the line and answer questions. Well, a lot of times that wasn't good enough, because after the three-way call was over, I wanted to stay on the line and, do whatever. Talk to them, answer more questions, make them feel good about their decision to get started or whatever. And I didn't realize that I was really, really sabotaging my business. Rather than just let the tools do the work, me adding in and doing all this extra stuff was really making the whole process much less aerodynamic, put it that way. And so I became really obsessed with how much of myself can I take out of the sales process in terms of having to show up, while at the same time taking complete ownership of the communication. And this is, I think, what John was kind of alluding to, like this point of differentiation. And this is something I think everybody on the line can apply to their DA business, is you guys have got great tools. And there will always exist some temptation to bulk them up, to do a bunch of extra stuff, or to say, hey, after you finish that presentation, give me a ring, or you get on the call, and you're going to spend another 45 minutes telling them why the company is great and so wonderful, and there's all these events, and there's all these people, and there's this, and there's that. And in an effort to make the sale, you actually create this invisible presentation where the prospect thinks, if I join the business, I've got to do what she's doing. If I get started in DA, I've got to do what he's doing. And when I realized that, I started by really just making sure that the core of what I did in my business was using the resources that were available to everyone. So, like, instead of using my own super duper, presentation, I just used the company presentation, whatever the company provided. That way, nobody can ever come and say, well, yeah, you tell why Tony's making $120,000 a month is because he's got his own presentation. And I would say, no, I don't. I'm using the same presentation that you have. And then they would say, well, he's probably got a big team site or something. And I did make a team site later, but for a fair amount of that particular time, I think I was making like almost $50,000, $60,000 a month before I ever started my own team site and team calls and team events and things like that. So, I probably took it overboard, but I really, really, really wanted to see how far can I go if I only use the resources that everybody has access to. Now, the only exception to that, and John, I don't know if this is how much detail you were kind of aiming for me to go into, but with the prospect during follow-up, I wanted to take as much ownership of that as I could, meaning that after somebody had opted in on a lead capture page and they went to see the official presentation of the opportunity, and they get, a couple of emails or whatever, stock emails that are going out from the company, that's where I really wanted to insert me. That's where I really wanted to show up in the life of my prospect in a relevant way that they could relate to. Now, John and I used to have this phrase. John, you may have resurrected this phrase. You may have brought it back. We used to have this phrase, no superheroes allowed. And the idea was that in a recruiting or sponsoring environment, when you're talking to prospects, if you have any success or accolades or like things that make you look super normal, like a superhero, the idea was that you didn't want to push those out front. Like, I would, if I was a best-selling author or something, you wouldn't want to say, hey, you should get started in my business. Here's this company, and I'm Tony Rush, and I'm a best-selling author, and I've done this. I've got this TV show, and Brad Pitt's my next-door neighbor, and because what ends up happening is people view that as a reason why they can't be successful. They say, well, of course Julie is successful. Of course she is. I mean, look, she's got her own novel. She's a best-selling novelist or whatever. So what I would do is, in how I presented myself in my follow-up emails, I really wanted to come across as an everyman. Hey, I'm Tony Rush. I'm a husband. I have 3 sons. I live in Southeast Alabama. And, just a little bit of introduction. My dad was kind of like how I started this call. My dad was a Baptist minister. My mom worked at Eveready Battery. I didn't go to college. I worked in a number of jobs. Really, really good at standing behind a counter at the mall. Really good at that. But I found this opportunity and, was able to make some really powerful decisions. And so what I'd like to do is show you how you can make some of the same decisions. And these have worked out really good for me. And the idea was that in framing myself that way, I was very relatable. It was also sort of refreshing because, most of our prospects have opted in to a bunch of different websites, and they've seen a lot of different opportunities. And maybe in a little bit of a self-deprecating way, everybody else was showing up as like, hi, I'm Mr. Important Marketer, and look at me, and here's my Lamborghini, and yes, I'm coming to you live from the 15th floor of the MGM Vegas or whatever, And here I was, I'm the guy that's, I'm just a normal guy. I've just made a few decisions you haven't had an opportunity to make yet, and as soon as you make them, then you'll be able to kind of get the results that I get. So that was a way of framing my follow-up, and this was the area where I really wanted to show up in a powerful way. So the winning formula for me, John, was really, really watching that invisible presentation, being aware that the prospect isn't just looking at the data, they're watching me. And I don't want to add a bunch of, cumbersome things happening here that would make the prospect think that this is a hard business. Keep it lean, keep it simple. Use as many of the available resources as possible. And then where I really inserted myself in the process was in follow-up. And I would do videos. I would shoot a video and I'd mail that out, or I'd just write emails, but the whole thing really was to create set the stage, if you will, that I don't know who this Tony Rush guy is, but it sounds like he's the guy that I've been waiting on to show up in my life. Hmm. He's the guy on the white horse. And if maybe I can, hitch my wagon to his star, then I might be able to get out of what I'm into and get to where I want to be. So does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, there's 2 huge points that just came up in what you were talking about, Tony. And the first one is the biggest question that's on people's minds, especially in our modern day with, online marketing and all this. And this is the question that's in the mind of every prospect, whether they know it or not. And that is, who can I trust? And so here's this guy who is very transparent. He's not boastful. He's, my goodness, he's happily married. He's got 3 kids. Seems like somebody I could relate to, right? So you talked about relatability and not needing to oversell yourself. Right? So you're here, you're doing your thing, you're living your life, and at the same time, these are people, not everyone, right? We're polarizing our audience. There are people who are certainly repelled by that. All they want is that, maybe they want the guy with the rented Ferrari and, to go drinking on the weekends or stuff. Well, you may not appeal to that guy. Well, that's okay, right? Somebody else will appeal to him. But here's this guy, Tony, and he seems sane. Oh, I could work with that guy, right? So now we just revealed point of differentiation, right? Here is someone, and this is very much like what Aaron was talking about last week for everyone who joined us on the Black Diamond last week. is this idea of stability, right, which some people value. Okay, some people value that. Other people, they're in a new deal every week, and they're probably not cut out for something like digital altitude, right? They're probably in 15 different deals right now, and they won't remember what those deals are a month from now. So there's part of it right there, is that people can trust you, okay? And that's because you're transparent with, hey, look, here's my video. I remember some of your follow-up emails, Tony, because naturally, we watch each other and what we do with our marketing, whether we're talking about, obviously we work together with stuff we do completely outside of this forum. But when we were just colleagues, right? Check out that email that Tony just sent. I'm on Tony's list, right? I'm receiving his emails. He's talking about he got a tomato sandwich at the local barbecue hut or something. It's like this fallen down shack. Where's the glamour? There's no glamour. But he added meaning to the tomato sandwich, right? So, I don't remember exactly what the meaning was, but it was relatable, right? And if I'm ever in Alabama and I want the tomato sandwich, I know where to get it. It's at the falling down tomato barbecue place or something. So what does that have to do with business? Well, it has whatever Tony says it has to do with business. Tony will tell me what it means, okay? So there's that. So the follow-up, which brings me to the second point, which may be the biggest point of all. And that is that through this whole time, while Tony is building trust and credibility with his ideal target audience, he's doing it with an air of non-attachment. Non-attachment. Write that down, everybody. So he doesn't have to show you his fancy car. Yes, he's got a fancy car. That's nice. That's nice. But that's not, how many fancy cars does Tony need to have for you to make a decision whether or not you want to walk this path with him? Okay? He doesn't have to show you his fancy cars. In fact, as Lao Tzu said, those who speak do not know. Those who know do not speak, right? So you get top earners in companies, they may say, yeah, I've been able to make, over $1 million, with this program. That's fine. But it's not like flaunting, every time they open their mouth. I remember, Tony, there was this guy who used to shoot videos. I don't know if he's still around. I can't even remember his name. But every video started with him in his Bentley, driving out of his gated, driveway. And it's always him in his Bentley. Look at my Bentley. Look at my Bentley. All right, enough with the Bentley already. Spit it out. You have a message. And so it's this idea of non-attachment. So Tony said, yeah, I'm going to use the company assets, which, by the way, everybody, if you're brand new here and you don't know yet, once you're ready to start marketing, you're through your Aspire steps, you've worked with your coaches. We've got currently eight live sales funnels. These are complete websites ready to go. In stock, ready to go. You don't have to be a web developer. You don't have to do any of that, okay? So you can rely on stock materials. But what Tony's talking about, with that air of non-attachment, the stock materials are good enough in our case because we've got a company that was, built by marketers for marketers, unlike, what we were talking about before with the MLM thing, where, every company asset is nothing but a product brochure. And oh my goodness, how big is our warehouse? Who cares? Right? So here we've actually got marketing minds, writing the copy. So you've got those assets, but then couple that with, this follow-up sequence, right, which you all learn to do. There's plenty of training on that stuff as well. We're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that here tonight, but you can certainly find it in our training replays and, on the podcast and everything. But here's a video where you're creating a message based on just something that you're doing in your life. It could just be, I know, Tony, I've done this where I just started talking about my gratitude for being in home business, and I'm so glad I don't have to answer to that boss anymore. Do you know the last job I had? I remember saying this in a video. Do you know the last job I had? They made me piss in a cup. They had me do it. I've been drug-free since the year 1986. I have not had a drop of alcohol, let alone these scary drugs. And I need to go prove myself now? Oh, how demeaning, right? I'll tell you what, I'll go up against anybody in here who's taken my sample. So so that sort of, that sort of thing. And I'm just talking about that, and people relate to that. I was like, oh, yeah, the levels I have to stoop to be qualified to even earn what my job is worth, not let alone what I'm worth. Never mind that. I'm never going to get that in my job. You get people nodding their head. Yeah, that's true. What's the opportunity? I don't know. But this guy John or this guy Tony, he seems okay. And he doesn't seem to give a damn whether or not I get started. There's the non-attachment. In Tony's follow-up, and it's not a brash or arrogant thing, but it's kind of like, hey, I hope for your sake, you take my advice. And if not, I guess that's okay too. But we're going over here, and it's cool. And we're going to eat tomato sandwiches, and we're going to, hang out in Vegas and, have coconut drinks on the beach or whatever. Fine. If you want to do that, let's do it. Right? Would you like to do that? And that is just so refreshing. And when people, by the way, Tony, the chat roll is lit up here. When people, they're asking about, invisible presentations and, I wonder what Tony's doing, what's his company and whatever, because obviously you haven't run your mouth here like I do every single day in our community, but and you're easy enough to find online and you're all over Facebook. Just so you guys know, Tony and I are opposites when it comes to Facebook. Like if you see me on Facebook, it's like a big event. Like, whoa, John Lavenia just logged into Facebook. Tony's there all the time. But so you could certainly find him. But that idea of Tony, it's the first rule of direct response marketing. Create interest, but do not satisfy interest, right? And if you're screaming about your company, right, so everybody already knows and the cat's out of the bag and all this, then what? Where's the mystery in that? It's kind of like, there's a difference between, going on a date with a, proper lady versus, the alternative who's, walking down the streets right now. Okay. There's no mystery in that. There's no enthusiasm over that. People want the curiosity. I would like to get to know that better. And the old saying, people love to be sold. I'm sorry, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. Right. And so there's the difference, folks. Right? I can trust this guy, and he clearly doesn't need me to buy his deal. Right? So you see how those two things go together? That's what I got from what you're talking about here, Tony. It's non-attachment and it's credibility. Right? And those two things go together. Now, for the person who's thinking, I don't have that success story yet. Well, that doesn't mean that you have to walk around needing the sale. Right? Be, do, and have in that order. Who are you right now? Are you the next top earner? We'll start acting like it then. You're not begging people for sales, right? You're not trying to convince everybody to do this deal. No, most people don't qualify for this deal or for your business time, right? So you're in the sorting business, not in the convincing business. So get that, whether you've made the money yet or not. Now, other people may be listening to this and saying, what a relief. Tony, I thought I had to go rent a Lamborghini, right, for me to be able to make sales. And you just disabused me of that false belief, because some people really do have Lamborghinis, right? Our friend Jason, right? He's got a Lamborghini, and that's cool. He likes Lamborghinis. I don't know if he likes maintaining it. They're very fragile, but that's his thing, man. Okay, cool. But Jason's not out, trying to convince people to, like, you get it? There's the difference.
Sure.
Right? You like Lamborghinis, go get a Lamborghini. Who gives a damn? But we're not in the convincing business. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really powerful distinction. I think a lot of times people miss because they pay more attention to what another marketer is doing instead of understanding the underlying reason why they're doing it. So, like somebody who has a Lamborghini and it's like they have it authentically. Well, they have a Lamborghini because they have a Lamborghini. I got 3 kids. What am I going to do with a Lamborghini? I mean, what? I got an 11-year-old. What, he's going to have, like, goldfish smashed up in the car seat? I don't need a Lamborghini, the little goldfish crackers. They'll be all over the place. Although I am hooked on those little peanut butter stuffed pretzel bites. Have you had those? I know you're a big animal cracker fan.
Yeah. Well,
have you had the peanut?
Yeah, I don't know that I've had the peanut butter. Oh, wait, yes, like... Yes, there's little peanut butter inside the pretzel. It looks like a square, like a pretzel square.
There you go. Folks, if y'all were looking for the secrets of wealth tonight, multiple 7 figures if you snack on peanut butter stuffed pretzels. No, but so if somebody's got a Lamborghini because that's who they are, then they should have a Lamborghini. I drive I have a Mercedes GL 450. I think it's maybe 3 years old or 4 years old now. I don't remember, but I love it. It's awesome, but I'm not really a car person. But it fits me because I got family and kids, and we also have a nonprofit organization. My wife and I started a theater company here in town to help teens learn public speaking and confidence and things like that. And so a lot of times we're hauling stuff around. So an SUV works great. I can't put stuff in the props and lighting equipment in the back of a Lamborghini. But my point there is though, instead of just paying attention to like what successful marketers are doing, try to get underneath of it and understand why they're doing what they're doing. Like in my case, I have an SUV because that's what I have. But I'm not a car person, so you'll never see my car in my marketing. You'll be more apt to hear me talk about my wife than you will about my car, and that's just because, family is incredibly important to me and cars are not. And so I think the message there was just show up as the most powerful version of yourself, which is a slightly different message than be yourself. Because if being stupid and lazy is who you are, well, that won't work. Okay? So no, don't be yourself. Be the most powerful version of yourself. And so if you can show up in the sales process using the company resources and not reinventing the wheel, so to speak, or, going and, you need to redo something. Listen, the presentation was good enough to get you in. It's good enough for your people too, right? So use all the resources that are available to you and spend your time on the things that make the most money. And I can tell you that far and away, I've got a coaching group that I work with every week. It's a group called the Predictable Income Academy, and one of the things that we show up talking about every single week, it almost doesn't matter what somebody's asking. It all still comes back to who are you being in the conversation. And maybe I just put a bow on it with this, John, is this whole industry, this whole profession that we're in of direct sales is really just a conversation. It really is. It's all about your ability to craft a message in a way that meets the prospect where they are. And I will come back to that just for a brief comment. Meets the prospect where they are, establishes trust and credibility, and really just highlights the fact that if you can do it, they can do it too. And if they make a decision, all the training and support and the system that they need, and that they will be aligned with people who really do have their best interest at heart. And that, like, the best you can do is the best you can do. If that's all you did, and you just did that with a lot of people, the right people will say yes. The right people will join. There's some people who don't need to join you. There's some people who don't need to join me. I don't want them in my business. And so I think if we can divorce ourselves from the idea that we're supposed to enroll everybody, or that anybody who can fog a mirror is a prospect. No, they're not. You don't want that anyway, So really you just kind of stake out who you are and how you want to occur to other people in an authentic and a really powerful way. And that may mean that you're occasionally talking about your woodworking hobby. You maybe say, hey, I hope you're having a great Tuesday. I just wrapped up this new chest of drawers I was making for my daughter's bedroom. I don't know if you're interested in woodworking, but that's my gig, and, man, I love it. But, hey, real quick, I wanted to let you know about a special webinar going on tonight. Well, just that little bit of personality, it just sets you apart from all the lookalikes out there who are all trying to portray themselves as being, Mr. Important and Miss Important. Because what people are really craving is connection. They just really want something that's real. They really just want to be in a community with other real people, and they want to feel like they're going to not only be able to get where they want to go, but a lot of these people really also want to feel like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves. It's not just about the money. We want the money. we want the money, but we also want to be a part of something that's really awesome, And I said I would come back to something just a moment ago when I was just saying about, actually, I remember what I was going to say. I don't remember where I gotten to it.
It was
My point
where
was
you're talking about meeting people where they're at mentally.
Thank you. Yes, because a lot of times the tendency is we want to vomit company information at people. It's like they opt in, and the very first email they get is like, "Hey, let me tell you about Digital Altitude. It's based here, and here's Michael Forrest, and we got these products," and it just doesn't work because at that point in the sales process, the prospect really doesn't care about where the company's located and when it was founded and all that. What they care about is are they going to be able to afford some really cool gifts for Christmas for the people they love? And are they going to be able to retire? And am I going to be able to get Johnny that trumpet that he wants because he wants to play in the school band? So they're like us. They care about what's going on in their own lives. And so we have to meet the prospect where they are. And so when you do your follow-ups, I really encourage you to show up in a personal way, but talk about real life stuff. Don't sound like you've arrived all the time. Don't sound like you're always operating at a fever pitch and that everything's just like you live in some alternate reality of gumdrop mountains and red licorice rivers and it never rains. Like nobody can relate to the superhero perfect life. But if you show up and you're like, you're just full of gratitude for the fact that you're home with your kids, and even though I swear I just cleaned the living room a few minutes ago, it already looks like a bomb went off in there. I mean, just that one little statement just gets everybody chuckling along because they all know what it's like to clean the living room, and then 5 minutes later it looks like a hurricane blew through there. That kind of little just showing up in a realistic, personal way. You'd just be amazed at how just a little bit of that goes such a long way to setting you apart, and it builds trust and credibility. Because the idea, just between us, and I'll close with this, the idea there is that if they see you being willing to talk openly about things that aren't always perfect, then they'll trust you to tell you when things aren't necessarily perfect in business. And you have to do that authentically. You can't do that as a gimmick. But the idea there is that if you come across as a bright, shiny person 100% of the time who never has a rainy day, you look like a cardboard cutout. You look like one of those movie sets that's like, it looks right from the front, but when you walk around back, it's just a bunch of 2x4s holding it up. That's who you don't want to be in your marketing. You want to be a three-dimensional, real, living, breathing, human, walking, authentic person who really wants to help people get from where they are to where they want to go, and is willing to do that for people that are ready to play big in life. So anyway, I hope that helps, and kind of a digression from where we started, but I would think, John, that those are some of the high points of things that worked for me, still work for me today, things that I still coach people on and see them getting great results with. So I hope that's helpful. And again, you guys have got a lot of this stuff built in to what's here at DA. I would just say the only thing that is missing is you. You have to really take ownership of your business and show up in it in a meaningful way. You couple that with what DA has already got on the table for everybody to use, it's just a win-win. So it's a 1-2 punch. It works.
Awesome stuff. Tony, thank you. Great insights, and it's, of course, so great to finally get to share you here with the Digital Altitude community. We do have, well, it's almost the top of the hour. You know what? My next student call is not for 15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up for some Q&A and audience participation here. All right, so the Q&A session has started. So if you guys are on the line, you want to say hi to Tony in person, or if you got any questions about our topic for tonight, which has a few subtopics built in, you can go ahead and raise your hand. If you're on your free conference call app, you can do that by clicking the raise button, which used to be your mute. Or if you're on a phone or Skype, then you can certainly click. Look at this. Somebody is calling me on my Skype right now. This is very, very strange. Why would they do that? Let me go on do not disturb mode. All right, here we go. So, and that's a Digital Altitude person too. You know what? I'm going to have to berate them as soon as we're done with this call. So you called me during Black Diamond? You mean you weren't on the Black Diamond? So, but anyway, we do have a couple hands raised. What was I saying? Yes, *6 is the command if you're using a phone or Skype to listen to us live right now. So we're going to go to our first caller here. We are going to share the time because we're going to run a little bit late here. So hold on. Here we go. And our first caller is live on the call. Subhasis.
Yeah, hi John. Means I am always attending these calls regularly, and I want to be a good entrepreneur, and I want to help people and to serve people. So first of all, I would like to know how I can be like that.
You're doing it right now. You're here. You're participating in a community and immersing yourself in an environment where what you are looking to become is a reality. So you're doing exactly right. Let me ask you this, and I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Is it Subhasis?
Yes, it is Subhasis. I am from India, and
okay.
yes.
Good. Well, we're glad you're here. And at this point, are you going through the steps? Are you very new here?
Yeah, I'm very new here, and actually I have been following different type of motivators and entrepreneurs online, and I'm attending different type of programs and webinars, and I watch regularly. So, and finally I want to be an entrepreneur, and I have less capital, but I have a good and a mature mind to do things. So that's all it is.
Okay. Well, you're definitely in the right place. Subhasis, glad you're here. We have many more Indians getting started as of late, so you can certainly lead the charge. Your country is wide open, and of course, you're certainly not limited to your country, right? So you've got global reach here. If you can figure out, Subhasis, if you can figure out how to market, then you will have done something really tremendous. We still have not cracked that market, but everywhere else is wide open. That's my little joke there on Antarctica, Tony. I like to tell that joke from time to time. Subhasis, thank you for being here. We're going to go on to our next caller, which is Jagdish. Jagdish, you're live on the air.
Hey, John. Hey, Tony. Thank you for the amazing call as always. My question, Tony, is it was awesome to understand the invisible presentation and how it applies to DA. So my question is, so for those who actually come into the system and sign up for a trial, how does one encourage / motivate them to go through their 18 steps?
Oh, it's a great question. I think, and John, correct me there, I believe there is a certain amount of follow-up already built in, right, that cultivates that lead.
Yeah, in fact, there's also, let me just jump in here, Tony, there's also, Jagdish, if you go into the resources section of the DA member site, look at the recorded trainings, just type the word follow-up. You can search by keyword, and you'll find every training that has been done, like on our Wednesday On the Rise webinars. And there are trainings specifically. In fact, Samith Pish is one of the guys who recorded this training on specifically how he follows up with people once they've joined the Aspire system and they've been assigned a coach. He shows you with exhibits exactly what he does. So it's all in there. Have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't, but that's a great resource. So is he's following up with them as in the capacity of a sponsor? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And there's a very definite line between his role as a sponsor. Now, of course, Samith is also a coach here. Okay, but when he's sponsoring people, that's one thing. When he's coaching, that's different. Two different roles. Okay, he just happens to he likes to wear a couple different hats. He's got a lot of energy. So, yeah, but check out those trainings. Tony, you wanted to say something on that?
No, it sounds like, as usual, it sounds like DA is already on top of that. So, yeah, if there's already training available, I would absolutely start there because that's highly qualified training from a credible person in your business.
Certainly
start there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great
Thank
question.
you so much.
You're welcome, Jagdish. And you remember, Tony, when we would do those three-way calls where it was like, now you're going to go ahead and you're going to let the person know here's, a very, high earning person and they're an expert. And then, but as soon as you're done setting up whoever your three-way call expert, so to speak, is, then you mute your microphone. You stop talking, okay? And let the expert be the expert. It's that sort of a thing with the follow-up here, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, you got your coach, that's awesome, So again, it's just acknowledging and giving authority where it's due, and then letting them know that you're definitely on the right track. It's just kind of like a little bit of a hand-holding, again, not convincing, but people are skeptical. Is this real? Can I trust you? Again, back to that original question, who can I trust? And that's all our follow-up really is. Yeah. Right. Good stuff. Thanks again, Jagdish. We're going to go to our next caller. I don't know how they let this guy on the line. Glenn Henderson from Houston, you're live on the air.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Hey, hang on a second. Now, John, I know a guy named Glenn Henderson in Houston.
Yeah, different guy. They would have never let that guy.
I'm sorry, Tony. I'm sorry. I'm afraid it's not the same person. I've never seen this man before in my life.
and you have certainly never been out to eat at a great steakhouse in Nashville, Tennessee a few months ago with John Lavinia and me, right?
Oh, steakhouse? What are you talking about?
Yeah. That was you.
Steakhouse?
Right.
What?
Hey,
who is this? How'd you get this number?
It's good to hear your voice.
And you too, my friend Tony. I really appreciate it. And it's such fabulous information we're sharing tonight. I know we're kind of running short on time, so I'm going to go quickly. It's two things. First of all, I want to share just a very quick testimonial with you, Tony and John, about this whole thing, as you say, about who are you being in the conversation. My interactions and my conversations and coaching from both of you gentlemen has inspired me in, among other things, in learning how to be authentically myself in conversations with people that I talk with who are interested in online business and people who've already joined me in Digital Altitude. So I'm all about, my whole perspective has changed. As you know, I've been in and around network marketing for a long time. My perspective has changed in that what I'm looking for now is to help people discover the core of who they really are, and then to go ahead and be that and allow that to help them build their business successfully. And it's much, much more fulfilling working this way, working with people and building business this way. So I can testify for the folk on the line that what you're talking about works.
Right on.
Now, the other thing is there was a gentleman who, for some reason, wasn't able to get through, and I wanted to ask a question on his behalf. Our buddy Grant on the line asked, and if you could please clarify a little bit, Tony, your definition of, you were talking about the invisible presentation. That is, I won't try to explain it. I'll leave that to you. But Grant was just asking if you could clarify a bit of what you mean by that and how that might possibly apply to someone as they're working through this digital altitude model.
Gotcha. In a nutshell, the idea of the invisible presentation is my shorthand for just acknowledging that one reason why people say no to our businesses is not because of the business, it's because they can't see themselves doing what they see you having to do to get them in. So, and I know a lot of people in DA, you guys have got a great support structure here with a coaching platform and everything. So I think there's probably less temptation for meddlesome behavior here than maybe in other companies. But where there's human beings, there's always somebody who's looking to complicate. Like to take that same analogy I had earlier, like there are some people, if you said, hey, look, all you have to do is push this button and you'll make money, you will have people who still, like, they'll ask, well, do I have to dress a certain way when I push the button? Can I push the button when it's raining? Can I push the button on Sundays? Does it matter which way I voted in the election? Can I still push the button? Like, the simplest instructions. Some people are just absolutely determined to overcomplicate. And so as that relates specifically to DA, I'm not entirely sure there's as much opportunity for that as might be in other businesses. But there's always the tendency for somebody to want to jump in and start convincing. And when you do that, and John kind of alluded to this a moment ago, like if I jump in and I start, trying to tug on somebody and convince them why they need to buy, I'm at risk of short-circuiting the culture that my coach is trying to create with them, because they've got an ongoing conversation, and the coach has a very specific process for pulling, that person toward their goals. And, if I jump in, or if I say, hey, jump on the phone call with me, let's talk, and I start trying to hijack that process, well, I'm actually hurting my business, not helping it. And so sometimes you got to be careful. You just got to kind of weigh things. But sometimes the best thing to do is not get in somebody's way. Sometimes the best way to make a sale is to just stay out of the way and let the customer buy. And so part of that invisible presentation idea is that if you're going to do something in your business, do it very deliberately and consciously thought out. Don't just jump in and monkey up the works with a bunch of thoughtless actions and behavior without thinking, what does this look like from their side? What does this look like from the customer side? Because it might create a lot of baggage, and they think, oh, if I saw it in the business, I'm going to have to do all that they're doing. Oh, I could never do that. And then they'll just go leave and go join somebody's business that looks simpler. And so it's just really important to make sure the process always looks, you want the customer to get to the end of the process and have a very distinct feeling that they can do exactly what they saw you do. So sometimes less is more.
I gotcha. Thanks very much, Tony, and I hope that answers the question for Grant there. So great to
hear your voice, man.
Speak, Tony. So great, man.
Hey, right on.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, Glenn. And I'm 3 minutes away from my next student call, but I'm going to see if we can sneak one last caller out here. It looks like my friend Sharifa is on the line. Sharifa, you're live on the air. Sharifa? Hello, Sharifa? No, Sharifa's not there. Well, you got Alfred. You're going to wrap up. Alfred, you're our last call for the night. You're live on the air.
Okay, well, my biggest thing is my family's always been in business, and I'm very familiar with business and customers. So my question is, where do I get my leads? Do I have to be out door to door, looking for people?
Oh, yeah, Tony and I go to door every day.
No.
Yeah. Alfred, you're obviously brand new here. Welcome, sir. You're going to learn so much about marketing and lead generation. It's going to be like avalanches of leads. Yeah, just get with your coaches. Once you start going through the RISE program and the other training steps we've got, and our Wednesday night webinars, and our events like this weekend, and our Ascend and Peak and Apex events, my goodness, you're going to know so much. So
okay, yeah, I already have my business plan tomorrow. So
awesome, Alfred, awesome. You're in a good spot. So I'm gonna have to wrap up with you. But thank you for jumping out here. Everybody, welcome Alfred in the chat room. And everybody, give Tony some love. Hold on a second. We're gonna wrap up Q&A. If you're listening live, give Tony some love in the chat room. I don't know if he's on dalivecall.com right now or if you can see it, but you can also, of course, give him some love on Facebook. But Tony, thanks again, man. It was so great having you here on the Black Diamond here with Digital Altitude. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the invite, and really, really, really proud to have been here. Hopefully that was of value, and thanks for the invitation.
Awesome stuff. Well, great, everybody. You guys know how I like to be exactly on time. I am 58 seconds away from my next student call. So I will see you guys tomorrow morning on the wake-up call with our friend Joel Strait. In the meantime, make it a great night. You absolutely deserve it. And bye for now.